Hello and welcome to another Best Junglers episode, and in this one we are going to be looking at how the meta has developed in 11.4. Now usually I do these once every 2 patches because things don't change that much, except experience was just taken from us, most junglers who don't AFK farm and have no personality are celebrating, and it's time to see how it has affected the meta. Now yes, ganking junglers can actually do something and enjoy the game, farming junglers aren't dead, please remember that. I've done a video on farming and ganking junglers now in the last few weeks. I will link that below, but please remember the world isn't ending for any sort of jungle type, and in fact it's actually better for the jungle ecosystem. And as always, if you enjoy these videos, don't forget to like and perhaps even subscribe to the channel. Get fancy tier list infographics on the Patreon. I also release multiple champion gameplays a week on the other channel if you're interested in more diversity. And now without further hesitation, let's begin. So, S tier page, Udyr is still on the top. You would have noticed from the thumbnail, every single high elo game you scout, every single pro game you see, and when you see things like, Tanu who's a Kha'zix main, Scrubnoob who's a Rengar main, and all these high elo junglers who have core champions playing Udyr on stream, you know this thing is absolutely busted. In the patch notes they said they were waiting to see how the changes would affect him. Well, now no other jungler that can skirmish can actually farm as well as him, and now we get even less experience. I don't know, I'm gonna question mark that decision like I question mark my corpse every single time I just get run down and destroyed. I mean, what do you do when he has Chem Tank, Merc Treads, Unflinching, and Tenacity? You either die and basically accept it, or you just ban him. Tanky, huge amounts of damage, and honestly, people in the comments have been saying across many videos, all the mediums, listen, Udyr's finally good, let him be. No, he's not just good, he's absolutely overpowered. There's a difference between being viable and being overpowered. The problem is, and the reason he's getting a rework, is because that power is just inherently linked to stat checking. I hate using that term, but that's what he does, and when you can't match up to it because his kit is so simple, you just get bulldozed down. Anyway, before this turns into an Udyr rant vid, second up we have Elise. Yes, she got nerfed. Really, that hit her mid-game more so than anything else. It means once she has snowballed, that power isn't as strong. However, because the meta has shifted a little bit, there's less experience to have in the jungle. It means ganking and closing out really have a bit more prominence in the new meta, and I don't think there's ever been a jungler better at doing that than Elise. Next up we have Hexam. Now his win rate has gone down. His ability to get everywhere on the map and actually gank, clean up, rotate, destroy skirmishes and fights, this hasn't gone away, but the inherent lead he gets from doing that plus farming has definitely been reduced, which is great, which is what we want. When we make plays as a ganking jungler, and Hexam doesn't really do that, we don't really want Hexam to get free experience by farming and counter jungling and then just rampaging out of the jungle with a good ult. So yes, Hexam can thrive in this sort of hybrid meta that we're having, but it is not as strong as it has been, even if the champion still is just not okay. Now to be honest, Karthus is probably just a little bit high on this list, but I cannot get over the fact that he is the quintessential farming champion. When all other farming junglers were dead in Season 9, who was the one that existed, the one that thrived, the one that pressed R and killed everyone? Karthus. Who was the one that rinse cleared every 2.5 minutes and then came out of the jungle, spammed Q a few times in your ADC, and then pressed R and killed your whole team? Karthus. If there is experience to be gained in the jungle, he will absorb it, enjoy it, and steal it from you, and then he will counter gank you while being on the other side of the map. Good Karthuses, as we've always said, will be timing those ganks, they will be having lane presence, that Q does more damage to isolated targets, he can still solo the dragons, and I'm not kidding, I've won a game laning with a Karthus in the bottom lane, I've won a game with a Karthus in the jungle, I've lost a game against a Karthus top lane, and I've won a game with a Karthus in the mid lane. He really is a 4-way flex pick at the moment, and that cannot be ignored. Just like how you can build Stopwatch, Zhonya's, and Banshee's Veil against his ult, so please do that. Or Edge of Night if you're an AD threat. Now next up is Kha'zix. Now Kha'zix has enjoyed just getting free experience by invading the enemy jungle, removing him from the game in a very tasty way. He enjoys himself, the enemy jungler does not, absorbs your experience, has a huge lead, and then just R's into lanes and kills people. Again, with the reduction of camp experience, he can't get away with sort of not interacting with lanes as much, but he still destroys many junglers 1v1, and he can still find ways to get fed, and honestly, he's the best, most well-rounded assassin in the game from the jungle position. There isn't one that matches what he does, and the versatility he has for metas in terms of not only being great at the high elo, being great at the mid elo, even in low elo, and still finding ways to thrive in different metas and different build paths. I mean, I know that's in his design, but still it's impressive. Now next up we have Shako, and I did a gameplay vid on my other channel. The entire Discord held their breath in terror. People basically thought I was possessed, and you know, maybe I was, but with a ganking meta and basically showing that you can in fact take the Raptors without an issue, there's nothing better than ganking a level 1 bottom lane with a level 3 Shako. It's actually disgusting and I hate it. And as long as you keep that pressure up and you control the map and you basically put that big question mark over your location at all points, you will have no problem carrying in a reduced jungle experience meta. Couple that with the fact you can build full assassin or bruiser, you have a variety of playstyles available to you, and of course AP also. Next up we have Fiddlesticks, just like Karthus, designed to absorb experience, designed to have a game-changing ultimate, and really, while he's farming rinsing camps, he can still get on the map, he still will ult your bottom lane level 6, and basically his kit is one of the best in the game at coming back from 2 dragon deficits and allowing his team to crawl into the fight, get a soul, and basically the enemy team has to live in fear. What a wonderful rework. Unlike Volibear, who's just a top laner now and doesn't even have a recommendation of being in the jungle. I hate it. And finally on this list we have Rek'Sai. Not too much to talk about, she's been a great ganking jungler, she thrived in high elo even in the farming meta, and still managed to have a lot of pressure, invade control, herald and dragon switches, and if you were a headphone user when she ulted you, you got yelled at and screamed at like she's in heat. Weirdly enough, there's a guy in my Discord that would enjoy that, but to keep this at the very least PG rated, basically the jungle experience nerfs played right into Rek'Sai's wheelhouse and she is primed and good to go. Queen of the Desert and Queen of LP. And now we're moving on to the A tier page. This is of course Nunu's meta, but you know, every meta is Nunu's meta, much like Kha'Zix finds a way to adapt and play around it. Except where Kha'Zix has to change his builds, his evolutions, how he plays the matchups, Nunu just does the same thing, which is gank, secure objectives, and then dominate teamfights using the passive trick in his ultimate. That, and it's really hilarious to go for a level 2 snowball gank in the mid lane, and then gank bottom lane 3 times in a row, and then in all chat you see the flaming of the enemy jungler. It's definitely a better playstyle now with the experience nerfs, and I can't believe I'm gonna say this, keep on rolling and they will keep hating. And I know that's a joke, but that's what's gonna happen. You will be flamed. Next up we have Evelyn. Now she's probably struggling a little bit more than I'm letting on here. I just think the solo queue presence that she has from hitting level 6, and again the question mark like Shako just being basically anywhere on the map, and the fact that she can dominate with her ultimate, make those picks, and any sort of elo where you might not have these coordinated teamfights, where you don't have a death ball Lulu comp against you, which is just pain in a jar, Evelyn will always find a way to get fed. You just don't have as much carry control as other junglers on this list, but at the same time, oh boy, can you carry. Next up we have Ramus, and yes, they nerfed him and his fancy new ult's coming very soon, I think what, 11.5, 6 or something like that? But in a ganking meta where you kind of want tank junglers to be able to get out on the field, make lane impact, and then peel your Vayne carry before they cry, this is the epitome of that choice. And if Vayne is against you, you just kill her, and then laugh, and then say okay. Now the logic for nerfing Scorpio versus not nerfing Udyr is a question to me as well. However, he was actually kinda strong and honestly was being picked in pro play just like Udyr, even less. But while the nerfs didn't really change what he wants to do, it affected his win rate slightly. Overall, with the ganking and the chem tank turbo engage meta, this is really where he slots in. He's still fine, he's still good to go, and honestly, for Clash this weekend, it's a good pick. Next up, we have Lee Sin. Finally, he shows up again in the A tier page, or any page for that matter. It's been a long starvation period for him, to the point that even a few weeks ago, high elo players were asking if it was griefing to even pick him. Now with those buffs coming through, not big but enough for clears, this is his meta. He will be picked a hell of a lot in high elo, and that win rate is close to 50%, which is very good for a champion of this complexity. So while he cannot see, his senses are definitely heightened, and most ADCs are gonna get kicked in the face with a multitude of build paths. Welcome back. And yes, Olaf got nerfed and Goredrinker got nerfed and Sterix got nerfed, but with the reduction in jungle experience, the shift of game timers have gone down just a little bit. Not necessarily the average game time going down, but just the win condition average time going down. By that I mean, with more ganking junglers, with junglers that don't scale as much, the urgency you need to have to win the game also increases. That means Olaf is back in his prime spot. He can farm faster than most other fighters. He also just has one of the most game-changing ults in the game. He yells really loudly. He makes any Zyra main such as myself whimper and cry every time he's even remotely close to me. That, and he can still heal a lot, and he still runs down many junglers. Now, if throwing axes isn't really your thing and you like having pointy sticks to poke people, and you're a bit of an edgelord who walks around without a shirt on, although you probably should, and Viego doesn't have to because look at him, this is a very good choice of a jungler for you. I just did a jungle decision making video featuring him, basically showing how you can snowball and take over a game. That hasn't changed. And because enemy junglers won't really be AFK farming and outscaling you, you can just get in their faces, you can gank lanes, and honestly the pseudo resets in team fights by picking up the souls, becoming untargetable and healing, it's almost unnatural to watch, and when he gets fed, the damage is unholy. And speaking of unholy, and yes, I'm totally referencing his smell, Kha'zix I'm slapping on this list like he slaps bodies all over the rift. Or I guess slams is the correct word. Now you could argue for many champions in this particular spot, but I'm gonna put him here because he's been picked in pro play. Top lane, support, you know, not really the best position at the moment, but also very good, as well as having huge success in the jungle, and this time not as a full tank Kha'zix. You can go Night Harvester and just absolutely obliterate any squishies. The ganking meta with Predator or Electrocute, whatever you want, really offers a lot of damage, a lot of utility, huge disengage, huge pick potential, and honestly, it's just a great pick all around for your team comp, especially in elos where people are obsessed with, you know, Talon, Zed, Yone, Yasuo, stop me if you've heard this before. That added AP component and utility just cannot be matched, and I think his position here is better than his win rate suggests, which is still pretty good anyway. And now I'm just going to highlight very briefly the low elo section. All the champions you've seen that are good in low MMR have been highlighted with the helmet in the first 2 pages, but on this one, nothing changed from the previous patches. I will say though that Warwick is having a nice time. The win rate is going up nicely, we're figuring out better build paths, Stride Breaker if you like that, going the Tiamat Sunfire build, you can do this, or even better, you're simply going Iceborne, Frozen Fist, Gauntlet, whatever it is now. Ah, Frostfire, that's right. He has build versatility, he has objective control, he can get around the map quickly, and when things are more gank focused, he really loves to thrive because he can fight a lot of junglers hand in hand and really offer you a lot of things in your games. Does that mean he's ready for the prime time again? No, the rest of the picks on this page like Udyr, Hexam, Yi, Ramus, these will all be better for you actually getting gold, but Warwick at least is showing some signs of life. Again, unlike Volibear Jungle. And finally for the high MMR page, you will see a slight shift in that Lee Sin now exists and Taliyah isn't performing as well anymore, but she's still picked quite a lot. And Virkayu is also picked in mid and jungle quite a lot in high elo. His win rate just doesn't quite support it, but overall the champion is very strong, so don't dismiss that not being on this list. And finally, we can just never get rid of him. Graves will have a diminishing presence, I definitely think that, but for now he's still performing solidly, having a good position in high elo, and things like Lilia, who really can fight, run away, and fight and run away, they don't have to AFK farm, she will perform just as well also. Things like Rek'Sai are really looking juicy in high elo though. Olaf also has presence, but really we bow down to Lord Udyr, and if you're a one-trick, Rengar is still fine, but the win rates for the general populace isn't really that great. And there you have it. While we had a nice diversity of the meta in the first patch of the season, that very quickly developed back into the farming meta with the nerfs to all the tank itemizations, but now we actually have a good presence of farming junglers that want to scale a little bit, but also those tanks coming in slightly, and things like Lee Sin and Rek'Sai and Shako showing up really big with the shift in jungle experience. Overall, it's a good change. Farming junglers are not dead. Ganking junglers are not the only ones around. Enjoy learning how this new meta shifts because it's good to have changes like this. Thank you very much for watching. Please consider liking, sharing, and commenting if you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to please consider subscribing if you enjoy the content as well as on the gameplay channel. And as always, I will see you all in the next tutorial.